Hey everyone, it's Rich Warner from the What a Beautiful Game YouTube channel. Glad you could be with me today. You know, there was an interesting controversial play in match day 5 of the Bundesliga yesterday between the home team Wolfsburg and the visiting team Stuttgart, VfB Stuttgart. And this incident highlights an important issue or point that I make in my recent publication, How to Fix the Beautiful Game by Rich Warner. And yes, it is available on Amazon. And I hope you get a chance to take a look at it. It's really quite interesting. I cover a lot of ground in this book. But anyways, it was the 63rd minute, and there was a pass from a Wolfsburg defensive midfielder across the half line into the attacking half onto the captain of the Wolfsburg team, Maximilian Arnold. And it turns out that the two captains challenged for the ball. So Stuttgart's captain is a guy named Karamazor. And Arnold and Karamazor, the two captains, challenged for the ball. Now, Arnold isn't the cleanest player around, to say the least. And what happened was he stepped on Karamazor's foot as they both stretched out their legs to get to the ball. Arnold literally clamps down with his cleats. And interestingly enough, Karamazor, the victim of this incident, carried on as if to play the game, whereas Arnold, the perpetrator of the incident, collapses onto the field in dramatics and starts play acting to make it look as though he was the one who was victimized. It's really quite the opposite indeed. Interestingly enough, a fairly young referee in the Bundesliga named Jablonski fell for Maximilian Arnold's play acting. It was really quite a sad incident because Karamazor had been yellow carded earlier in the match. Jablonski got it wrong. And so thinking that Karamazor had just committed this, foul on Arnold, issues Karamazor a second yellow. And as you know, in the game of soccer, 2 of these equals 1 of these. And so the perpetrator of the foul gets to play on, whereas the victim of the foul gets ejected. So you can imagine the coach of Stuttgart went ballistic. I was amazed that he was able to control himself to the extent that he did. But from that point on, of course, Stuttgart had to play a man down and actually suffered a goal as a result from Wolfsburg. Wolfsburg then moved up to 2-1 score. But fortunately, for the sake of justice in this case, VfB Stuttgart managed to score a goal later on in the game to equalize, and both teams ended up getting a point each in this match. But this incident raises quite a few questions and issues that I'd like to discuss with you. First and foremost, I can tell you as a referee that we're not perfect. We make mistakes. Considering the position that Jablonski was in, he was not far away from the play. It could be that he didn't see the foot of Arnold, coming down on Karamazor's foot. And I think it's important to keep in mind, if you're a referee especially, that you should never judge the result of the play. You have to judge the play as it's developing into the result. Okay? If a player like Arnold's going to play act and dramatize, you're looking at that play after the fact. Okay? The foul occurred before he goes into these antics of spasms like he's the victim and everything. So Jablonski, the referee, fell for that, and that was the result of the play, not the play itself. So it's very important as a referee that you've got to be on the game constantly, like a film is running in your head as you're observing the match. You have to judge it when it comes and not look at the end result necessarily. In this instance, if Karamazor had been a little bit more dramatic and rolled over a bit himself, maybe he wouldn't have been carded, and maybe Arnold would have been carded, and maybe both would have gotten away with something in this case. And after the match, as you can imagine, there were comments everywhere about the unfairness of the call. Stefan Effenberg, for example, the ex-captain of Bayern Munich, quite a while ago, made a comment to the effect that, Arnold's play acting and dramatics was the lowest level of professional soccer. Even Jablonski, after the match, conceded that he had made a grave error. He must have seen quite a few replays of this incident, and he said he's sorry that he made that call, and that if he had had access to video replay to have a second look or a third look, he would not have made that call. You see, because in a lot of professional leagues in soccer, there are certain calls that are reviewable by VAR, video assist replay, and there are quite a few plays that are not reviewable. And it turns out that yellow cards are not reviewable. Jablonski was saying, at least let us have a second look if it's going to lead to a red card situation, as in this case it did. Which brings me to another point that I cover in my book, How to Fix the Beautiful Game. And that is, why is it that the leagues determine through the officiating which plays are reviewable and which are not? I think that's a mistake. There's so many plays that we've seen since VAR has come to the fore where, you wonder, why didn't they check that? Whether it's a yellow card, a red card, a PK, even offsides is sometimes not checked for whatever reason. But there is a solution to this problem. It's not necessarily to open it up to every single play in the game should be checkable or reviewable. And I believe the solution is to allow coaches, each coach, to have 2 chances to question the referee's decision. That is, enable each coach to have 2 coaches' challenges during the match. No more than that, just 2. So it's up to the coach to decide, if this particular play is a grave one, will it have a serious impact if it's the wrong call on his team or her team? I believe that is the solution, because then a coach can question, a situation like this, a double yellow, a single yellow, a red, a PK, an offside. That could be the game breaker right there, right? But the fact that the coaches are not allowed to question authority, as it were, I believe that's a grave mistake in the present day game of football or soccer. Now, if you look to the North American professional leagues, the NFL, the National American Football League, if you look at the NHL, the National Hockey League, considered to be the best in the world, the NBA, considered to be the best basketball league in the world, and Major League Baseball even, they have coaches' challenges. Now, in the NFL, you get punished in the sense that if you challenge the referee's decision and you're wrong, you lose your second challenge. I don't know if that's necessarily the perfect solution, but it's not a bad one when you consider it, because it prevents a coach from questioning everything. There definitely has to be a limit to the number of coaches' challenges during a game, and I think 2 is ideal. 1 per half, let's say. And if he doesn't use the one from the first half, it rolls over into the second half. And if he doesn't use any in the second half, or he uses only 1 in the second half, well, then he can save it for overtime, if that should arise. Now, you may know from this book also that I am not a big believer of overtime periods in soccer either, but that's another issue entirely. Now, the third point that I like to cover about this incident between the 2 captains of Wolfsburg and Stuttgart, Arnold and Karamazor, and that's this. I believe that Maximilian Arnold's actions, his play acting and dramatics to cover up his foul, I think that's extremely unsportsmanlike, and it's actually disgraceful. So what the league should do in this case is to suspend Arnold for 10 matches. I think that would be fair, because you can't have players in the league running around pulling these antics and expecting to warp the rules of the game in their favor. That can't happen, because that creates a lot of animosity, and you start getting a lot of fights and stuff, and chaos can break loose, not only among the players, but among the fans in the stadium, etc., etc. If you want to preserve peace and harmony in the game of soccer, you got to call it right. You have to make your best effort as a league, as officials, to get it right. at least show to the world that you are trying your best. And that's all you can do. But this sort of behavior where players can play act and sort of distort reality to their advantage, that's clearly unsportsmanlike and should be punished. And finally, the other thing that I'd say is, I question the management of Wolfsburg and the sponsor of Wolfsburg, which happens to be Volkswagen AG or Volkswagen AG, one of the biggest car companies in the world. Why are you sponsoring a team like Wolfsburg that has a captain, no less? Maximilian Arnold is the captain of Wolfsburg. Why do you want a player like that to be leading your team? That doesn't make any sense to me. So I would urge the management of Wolfsburg to take a really good look at this player and see whether you really want to have such an individual on your team, no less being a captain of your team. I mean, the guy is like over 30 years old. He's practically a relic of the Bundesliga these days. Why don't you have another player, a younger player, who's going to actually give you more in terms of energy and endurance and conditioning and technique, and most importantly, a player who is more sportsmanlike? It doesn't make any sense that Wolfsburg has put itself in this condition. It's a far cry from the good old days under Felix Magath and Graffice and Checo when they won the championship. And that was an amazing team to watch and behold. But this sort of behavior and to tolerate and appoint such a leader is actually taking away from the support of the Wolfsburg establishment. I mean, how many viewers are going to come around and say, yeah, let's root for Wolfsburg now? I'm certainly not until they make any changes, because I personally don't like to watch football players play in such an unsportsmanlike manner. Whenever I see brutal behavior or red card worthy behavior on the field, I don't look at the player. I look at the coach and I look at the management, because they're the ones ultimately who are responsible for their rosters and who they appoint to positions of authority. Okay, well, that's all I have to say today. I hope the next video is going to be a little bit more upbeat and positive, but I just thought this was such an important issue and we had to discuss this and share it with fans of the beautiful game. Well, thanks so much for watching again. This is Rich Warner from the What a Beautiful Game YouTube channel. Please do subscribe and like this video and share it with your friends, teammates, and family. I greatly appreciate that. Your support of this channel gives me an incentive to produce more videos like this. Thanks, and have a great day.